Winter climbing in the UK is unique. Nowhere in the world has the same variety of styles in such a small area. As well as ice and snowed up rock, we have something else that's special: turf. The question is, what impact are climbers having on this valuable ecosystem? We climb on cliffs that are inaccessible to grazing animals, and that makes them a haven for rare plants. If we're going to climb responsibly, what should we look out for? The main thing to check is that the turf is frozen. Climbing on fully frozen turf does minimal damage, so if it's not frozen, then you could be destroying a rare plant species. It's important to be flexible with your plans. Be prepared to back off an objective if it's not in condition. In this video, we're in the Lake District, looking at how climbers can avoid damaging important ecosystems and how to assess conditions on the crag. Here we are at the bottom of Brown Cove Crag. The ground was really frozen on the way in, really hard. So we're hoping that the turf's going to be good on the crag. We'll go and have a look in a minute. Just want to talk very briefly about sort of planning your day, and obviously you're going to want to check the weather forecast anyway to see what conditions you're going to be getting, but that can give you a really good clue about whether the ground's going to be frozen or not if you check that for sort of the days before you go, see whether the freezing level is below the sort of crags that you're going to be heading for. And up here in the lakes, a really good resource is the Weatherline website, which is run by the National Park here. Today we're really focusing on the environmental side of winter conditions. Obviously the ethical side is a bit of a minefield, but what we're really interested in today is making sure that whether something looks wintry or not, the turf is frozen. So here we are in a really easy little snow gully, which is one of the places you'll find these pretty rare Arctic alpines. And as you can see, there's bits of turf poking through on the sides, but in the middle, it's actually really banked out with snow. Well, for the conditions anyway. So that snow's protecting all of those rare plants that could be underneath it. So even if the turf isn't frozen, if you've got a really well banked out gully, that's still fine to climb, as long as there's enough snow to sort of protect the plants that are underneath it. And it's also worth bearing in mind that snow can insulate the turf, so the turf that's on the outside that's exposed can be frozen, and then the snow that's underneath the turf that's underneath the snow might actually still be unfrozen. So if you're digging away at snow and it's gradually coming away with more and more people doing it, and you're then exposing the turf underneath, that may not be as frozen as the stuff that's been exposed all the time. So what you're looking for in frozen turf is when you stick your pick in, it feels really solid, almost like putting your pick into plastic ice. And when you take it out, there's no dirt on the pick. Basically, the turf's totally solid, and you're doing minimal damage that way. Your axe isn't ripping through when you pull it, when you've stuck it in. The whole thing is really solid. If you make sure that's the case, you can do really minimal damage, virtually none at all, and you're good to go basically. So we're climbing up this gully, and the conditions in the gully itself are fantastic. Good hard neve, and we're not going to be damaging anything when we're climbing on that. Nice and thick, and yeah, all good. But the turf near the gully is actually pretty well frozen. But you can see this stuff here is starting to thaw a bit, and you're putting your axe in, it's just ripping through. Bits are coming out. I mean, it's not completely thawed, but it's sort of going that way. So it's worth remembering when you're climbing routes like this. I mean, today is sort of marginal conditions, and it's okay to climb gully lines because they've got plenty of snow in them, but just avoid putting your axe or your crampons into any of this slightly thawing turf off to the sides. It's easy enough to make your way up the middle of the gully on the snow and the ice. So this is another sort of place where you might find these rare Arctic alpine plants is in these little drainages that form ice smears, and obviously in summer they're water drainages, ideal for plants, and in winter turn into ice. You can see sort of where it's a bit thinner here, you can see bits of grass here poking through. Obviously that's not an issue, but it could be rare species elsewhere on other routes. Make sure that the ice is nice and thick and you're absolutely fine. So we just climbed a lovely little route, nothing groundbreaking, but a nice one to get in early. Conditions were good on the route, even though when we were looking at the crag from the bottom, there were only a few lines that really looked like they were properly frozen. But yeah, we found some good hard snow and ice in the gully. To conclude, make sure that the turf is nicely frozen, really well frozen, iron hard. When you're sticking your pick in it, it's making a good thunk, just like you're sticking it in some plastic ice, and you're not ripping anything out. Remember that snow can insulate the turf, so if you're kicking a bit of snow off and you get down to turf, it might not be as well frozen as other stuff around it. And then remember the sort of areas where you get these really rare plants, things like icy smears, back of gullies, shaded walls of gullies, kind of vegetated cracks, and particularly, we haven't really seen much here, but sometimes you get these kind of hummocks or tussocks of vegetation that sort of stick to slabs and rock faces, and they can often be a real haven for these plants. So be careful around those and make sure they're really well frozen before you stick your axes and your crampons into them. And above all, have fun. Make sure you stay safe and yeah, enjoy your winter.